I want to thank the University of Kentucky Department of Forestry for hosting this, because I am a poor state employee and we can't afford coffee. So it's also great that it's a rainy day, because for those of you who know, the Division of Forestry fights forest fires. So we are I think the only agency in all of state government that enjoys a rainy day in the spring and in the fall. So while our counterparts in the Division of Water worry about flash flooding, we're excited. So, as we were driving across campus this morning, I'm in a car with, I guess, older people, because Stuart West was with me, and he's like, you know, when I was a UK student, these trees were only this big. Red sort of set us the stage for this. What he didn't tell you is that he and I attended a meeting in Arkansas back in September, and Red was new to the job, and he's given me the spiel of, you know, I'm new and I want to help and we want to grow. He said, what can I do for you? And I said, well, I'll tell you what you can do for me. I said, I've gone to attended meetings of the governor's task force on biofuels, and I listened to speakers there, and qualified researchers talk about the research they've done on the amount of woody biomass that would be available to support a biomass industry, and the amount of marginal land that could be converted to. And I said, you know, I'm not a forester by training. I'm a biologist by training. I'm not an academic. But what I am is a policy maker, and I'm smart enough to sit there and listen to what various speakers are saying about how much and where it is and how it can be used. And I'm computing that in my mind to what I know about forest landowners in this state and how much is harvested, and I'm overlaying that in my head with where I know the forest industries are. And I'm also calculating in areas of forest land that I know are not available for harvest because they're either in the public domain or they're owned by landowners that don't intend to do anything with it. And my father will tell you my math skills were never the best, but even I could figure out that the numbers didn't add up. So I asked Red, could you please, you've got all these qualified researchers and academics in the Department of Agriculture, the Department of Forestry, and on UK campus, can't you get them together and work together and come up with some figures and some information that we can use to really get a true sense of how much biomass is actually available? Because a lot of people will tell you, we're going to take all the wood waste. The people in the forest industry will tell you, we're already using that, or we're going to take this waste, or we're going to have this. And it just doesn't compute. Now, from a policy standpoint, this information is extremely important as we try to figure out what do we tell our landowners that want to get into a biomass market? How do we advise them? Something that's going to be new to Division of Forestry Service foresters, we're used to marking timber for a timber harvest. We're not used to marking timber or marking trees for a biomass harvest. There's a difference, and we need to know that information. And we want to be able to tell a landowner, if you're going to do this, here are some things that you need to consider in terms of how you enter into a contract, how you want to ensure that you have sustainability of your forest land after a biomass harvest. What happens to, what are the wildlife implications? What are the forest health implications? These are things that we need to know. Do we have the right best management practices to protect water quality for a biomass harvest as we do for a timber harvest for our traditional timber industries? We think we do, but do we know for sure? What's going to happen? And so that's why it takes researchers to compute this information, tell us this information, so that we can turn that into good public policy as we go forward with this. Otherwise, I don't want us to be 20 years, 30 years, 40 years down the road and see the forests of Kentucky look like they did at the turn of the 19th century, or in turn of the 20th century, where they weren't there. But knowledge is power, and we are depending on folks here at UK and across the country to give us that information that we need to develop that good public policy. Now, Dr. Leica asked me if I had any audio-visual needs, and I looked at the speakers for this seminar and decided you're going to get enough of that today because I know all of them. So I'm going to turn this back to him and let him introduce our next speaker.